Hello, hello, hello. Man, it's been only a week and a day since the last one I dropped. I don't know. This will probably drop tomorrow. I'm recording it late at night. Just been going through the ringer out here from people. I want to say I did record a show or two, or at least some videos in the time I've been home. Um, after Christmas and visiting my family back in where they live. Not going to disclose that um, at this point in time. I'm sure people could figure it out, but um, yeah, I had a really rough Christmas and was sick and ruptured an eardrum, and then tried to get back into the swing of things out here, and had a couple other obstacles kind of pop up and derail me a little bit, and then I got sick again. My kid got sick, and that was a mess. Just 24-hour attention, which just wears you out, man. Parents, whew, hats off to you, because being home with a kid for most of the day is very tough. And I do want to talk about this topic at another point in time, but it really bothers me, and I think it needs to be fleshed out. This will be a whole other podcast for sure. That it seems very apparent to me that the perception of being like a stay-at-home mom or parent to take care of your kids has just been devalued, and it's been, again, like the perception, at least my perception of it when I see people and how they seem to perceive that, is that like it's frowned upon. Like, oh, that's all you do, all you do is raise your kids. It's like, what? We fucked this up, in my opinion. Having to, again, this is like a whole can of worms. I should wait for another episode, but all I'm trying to say, long story short, is that it's a fucking hard job to raise a kid, and it is very meaningful. There's probably not a more meaningful thing you can do on the planet than have kids, raise them, and then let your genes carry on. I mean, the arrogance and disrespect to all of the ancestors that came before you, that are the reason you are here today, for you to just be like, well, all those things you overcame, just throwing them out the window. I don't really want to have kids. I don't feel like it. I'm not trying to shit on people that don't have kids. I don't think everyone should have kids, but I think if you're, kind of even remotely capable of putting someone else before yourself, then I highly recommend having kids. Obviously, I don't think everyone should be a parent, but for those that think they can kind of carry that or do that kind of thing, you'll never feel like you're ready, but you can do it, man. And it's the best. It's the best thing, even when it's really hard. So, anyways, I've just been kind of going through it, as you can probably hear in my voice and my nasals. It's not 100% yet. I'm getting a little bit better. But I'm not gonna lie, man, like I'm very human. And despite being a life coach and, a retired professional athlete, and also, like, I still struggle with discipline, like on lots of things often, and something I've really tried to work on is, when I fall off the horse, getting back on the horse as fast as possible. So, I basically took 2 years the first time falling off the horse after being a volleyball player that couldn't play volleyball anymore. And even like in the summers, when I was playing, like I was just like resting, I was like so fried from just playing volleyball in school or whatever it may be, that when it came summertime, I'm just pretty much like vegging out, not doing much. And then, then it would take months, and then it's weeks. It's like now I'm trying to get it back down to days, but depending on what it is that I go through, obviously sometimes it takes me longer to get back to doing the things I know I should be doing. So I'm trying to just minimize the time off the path. I think it's not reasonable to expect that you're going to stay on the path 100% of the time. That's not the human experience. I don't know if it's possible. It doesn't seem possible. but it is possible to make a mistake and get right back on and right back to what you're doing. And I think that's what I'm striving for currently. But anyway, I want to do a pretty quick podcast because I just wanted to talk and say some stuff and put another show out there. Just to kind of just to try to get some more momentum as I'm starting to feel better here and starting to get my act together again. Um, I think I want to just kind of do like a random tangent on just like religion and my thoughts on it a little bit more in depth. Um, I've said this many times, I'll say it many times again. I grew up Christian. I grew up in a very Christian, conservative household. We went to church every single weekend, pretty much. Sunday school, all that stuff. For some reason, I mean, I didn't like school either. So Sunday school, it was just like an extra day. It's not the same length and very different topics, but it was still like in my mind, it was still like school, and there's like these tasks and like for some reason in my head, the way I look at homework, like I despise it. I despise like the extracurricular part of like what it is that like I took time out of my day to go learn something, and you're telling me I need to now take the rest of my day to practice the stuff you were teaching me across multiple subjects and all that jazz. I never liked it. And I don't know if it's from, being a neurodivergent or what it may be. I don't think public school is set up for people like me to succeed. I did succeed despite that, like a relative amount, at least through middle school. And then once I got to high school, it really got to the point where some of the course material was a little bit too difficult for me to just like sit in class and be able to pass the test. I started having to kind of study, and for sure in college, for like, I'm not so smart that I can just open. I don't have photographic memory, nothing like that. My, I don't know, arithmetic, computational skills, all those different things. They're okay, but it's not, it's nothing to like, write home about by any means. Um, I just think I think differently. I'm pretty observant. Um, but when it came to college, like I needed to study way more to get good grades, and it wasn't a priority. That's all it is. If it comes down to like making it a priority, then that's fine. But um, that's up to the individual to prioritize whatever they want to prioritize. So people say they don't have time for something. It's like, nah, you got time, man. You're just not prioritizing the time that you do have to do whatever it is that we're talking about. I try to be very careful with my language when I say like I don't have time for that. It's like, well, I don't say that anymore. I say I have not made that a priority in my life. People say I don't have time to go work out. You definitely have time to go work out. I don't know if you have time to go do like a 2-hour workout every day, but you could do like a 30-minute cardio body weight workout. Just lots of different options. I said once a couple years ago, like I wanted to get back into art, and I was worried that I was going to suck, and all this other bullshit that I don't want to go into right now. But I was also like kind of getting into life coaching, and I really was like, I want to kind of focus on my life mission, and like art is more of a hobby. So it's like, I said, oh, I don't really have time for art right now. And one of my mentors, Bob, was like, well, like he didn't look like that. I'm just, he was like, oh, you don't have time. And I was like, no, I mean, I don't mean that. I mean, I'm not prioritizing it. And then pretty much from then on, I've said that kind of stuff and said like, I don't have time. It's again, not to knock anyone that says I don't have time for this or that. Like there's going to be instances where you don't have time, but sometimes we say like, I don't have time to do anything ever, and when I say anything ever, I mean, insert any example for some amount of time. So anyway, I grew up Christian. Back to it, and I had this thought the other day, and I thought, maybe even though like I didn't feel like I was really like grasping the concepts. I wasn't able to memorize the verses for shit, you know. And I don't know if other kids. I feel like the amount that I have to actually go through something over and over and over again, in my mind, I think it's more than the average person in order for me to commit it to memory. Like I don't think my memory is great, to be honest. And maybe it's because I just didn't, work hard enough at that stuff. Like growing up, like not studying and all that stuff, not growing up probably hurt me a lot in college. But um, it just didn't seem like I don't know what the expectation is, man. Like sometimes I'm a brick, and you need to explain things to me like I'm a fucking 5-year-old, or at least just like multiple different ways. Like sometimes I'll just get it on the first try. Like I am coachable and I am a good learner, but sometimes the communication is just off. And that's why it's like, this is why I'm neurodivergent and there's neurotypical. It's like I really struggle to communicate with people that are neurotypical, and likewise them to me. Like it's hard for me to understand them, and it's hard for them to understand me. And it's something I probably want to dive into again on another podcast down the road, because that's just an interesting thing I've observed. It's just these differences in the communication, and like why do I feel so misunderstood all the time? Especially in relationships and things like that. It's like I'll say lots of words, but what people choose to respond to out of the lots of words I say, it baffles me a lot of times, where I'm just like, wait, what? I was like, that's what you took away from that whole thing I said? Or like, that's what you want to respond to out of that whole thing I said? And that's the only thing you want to acknowledge? It's like, what the fuck? So, that's, opportunities for me to get better at doing some stuff, as well as, just kind of be aware. But, anyways, it was hard for me to learn verses and things like that. So I got, I don't necessarily want to say like anxiety, but like I used to throw fits, man, to not go to school or church. Um, so maybe I was just being a baby, um, but yeah. So I grew up through the first 18 years of my life in a very Christian household. Two of my siblings went to one of the most Christian conservative colleges in the country, and my mom is incredibly religious, devout Christian, as well as my dad, extreme faith. He wasn't always; he was an atheist for a lot of his life, and I think I'd like to pick his brain about more of that stuff. Honestly, I haven't really had the chance, so I need to maybe do that more. But I know that he's come to faith, and my mom helped him to do that. Anyways, my older brother's a pastor now, and through college, I was pretty much like, I'm not a practicing Christian. Like I do all kinds of sin. I think every Christian probably does all kinds of sin all the time. But the kinds of sins I was doing, like, you know, just like premarital sex, drugs, alcohol, little stupid things um, as well. But some of those are pretty big sins. And in my opinion, all sin is created equal. And when we talk about saying that, I like to distinguish between like the consequences here on earth in like this mortal realm versus the all sin is created equal in the kind of like spiritual realm. The reason I think it says all sin is created equal is because it doesn't matter if you steal the piece of gum from the store or you murder someone. At the end of the day, Jesus had to die on the cross for both of those sins. So it obviously one of those has a far more serious and dire consequence here on earth, like you were robbing someone of their life that they are not going to continue to get to live while you continue, potentially to continue to live yours. That's an egregious crime, and the punishment for such should be egregious as well. Um, and then, stealing guns, like a little slap on the wrist. But either way, like Jesus was put on the cross to die for all of our sins, all the sins that had ever happened in the past and all the sins that will ever happen in the future. That's what that was all about. Um, so yeah, so I mean, even though all sins created equal, They definitely have different consequences here on earth, depending on what that sin is. And um, let's see here. I feel like I'm kind of a little spotty here. I'm out of practice, maybe, but um, so yeah, I went to school, and I kind of just fell out of being a practicing Christian. I, you know, I was putting it off. Let's say that I was thinking, I'll get to this. I'll get to this at some point. Right now, I just want to enjoy college and life and figure shit out and focus on volleyball and try to pass my courses and just keep moving forward. And once life kind of slows down, like I'll really like I want to look into all the religions, at least the major ones, and really see and decide for myself, like, what do I think and believe? Because I acknowledged pretty early in life that there's a good chance that I'm only a Christian because my parents raised me Christian. And if I had grown up in some other part of the world, I I probably wouldn't be a Christian. So I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that idea that I might just be something because it's the only thing I've heard. And like I said, it didn't necessarily resonate with me a ton. I forgot to mention earlier that even though I wasn't like necessarily doing the Sunday, I never know the connection shit out. So sorry, I was just waiting for a second. I think a lot of the morals did rub off on me, and I actually absorbed them. I was thinking about this literally a couple days ago, where again, I just said I have pretty loose morals in a lot of like kind of like that sin kind of sense. But I think just as far as like trying to be a kind person, trying to be respectful and do the right thing the majority of the time. Um, I got that from somewhere, as well as my parents and good role models and friend groups and things like that. But I was thinking, maybe more of Christianity rubbed off on me than I thought it did when I kind of had another reflection on it from a different angle. Um, where was I going anyway? So yeah. So with the other major religions, I wanted to think what's Buddhism all about? What's Hinduism? What's Islam all about? And now fast forward 11 years from being 18 and thinking like, well, like I'm a Christian. I tell people I'm a Christian, but I don't really feel like Christian. Like I'm not. I've asked Jesus into my heart multiple times, but it's like I never just felt like super real, man. I never felt like something happened. Um, and not to say like something needs to happen for that to be real. I don't want to mislead people into thinking that like if there isn't some like physical feeling or something like that that happens when you decide to be a Christian or ask Jesus in your heart, that it didn't work or something. That's not the case. But anyways, I, I just was thinking I don't really know shit about shit, and that doesn't seem right. That I would say I believe this and this is the right path, and you're all the other religions are wrong. When I barely know anything about my own religion, I definitely don't know shit about the other ones. So now I've had some amazing conversations with a great friend that is a devout man of Islam, and shout out Taki, dude. He's a great man, dude, a great dude, and he's practiced a different religion than me, and I learned quite a bit through some conversations with him. Um, and I have a lot to admire about that religion as well, and same with Buddhism, and I still need to really look into more into Hinduism and other things like that to get a better idea. Um, but I would still say that if I were to pick a religion to associate myself with, it would be Christianity. Um, I had a couple. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. I've recorded it or mentioned it before, but I had a near-death experience where I fell asleep driving on the highway when I was driving cross country to one of my old girlfriends for Thanksgiving. Left super early in the morning after working a double shift the day before till like 10 or 11 at night. And I was driving from Illinois to Pennsylvania, and I was like really close to the Ohio border. I was about 3 hours plus into my drive. Um, I left around like 4 a.m. or something like that because I wanted to like have a day. I didn't want to just spend all day. It's like a 12-hour drive out there. Um, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm tired. I'm literally falling asleep at the wheel. I'm aware of this, but like I just need to get to Ohio because like I like having nice little checkpoints. And I was like, okay, get over the border. It's like almost 4 hours, three and some change hours. I'll find a stop, get some coffee. If I need to take a nap, I'll take a nap. What a great thought that was. Nice sentiment, you know? And boom, and hit the ground, and the car's fucking. Thank God I was in my brother's bigger truck, and thank God I didn't hit anybody or hurt anybody, and like I'm alive. I mean, like thank God, literally. And so I'm driving 80 miles an hour, just wake up from a peaceful sleep off the highway, dodge a pole that probably if I hit, I probably would have fucking died on impact. It knocked off the driver's side mirror, and then I drove back up on the highway, got on the left shoulder, drove across the highway, pulled off the left shoulder, stopped. The car, all the airbags had gone off. The car smelled like smoke. I was like literally went from as comfortable, peaceful sleep as possible to like the most amount of adrenaline, arguably in my life, coursing through my veins, and I'm now sitting on the side just shaking, just like holy fuck. Like I never expected this when I left my house this morning. Um, and yeah, I mean, it did a number on me, I mean, we don't have to keep talking about the story, but like, I was like, fuck, do I even get to go out to Pennsylvania still? Like my girlfriend's not going to be happy about this. I have to call my parents and be like, yo, the car is wrecked. I just fell asleep driving. And yeah, but I mean, I called insurance. We got a tow truck. And craziest thing about that whole thing, honestly, was that I slept for about an hour to the in network, rental car and collision shop or whatever. And I get to the rental car place and they just give me a brand new car. Here you go. Have a nice day. Yep, it's all good with your insurance. I'm like, yo, I just drove off the road at 80 miles per hour because I fell asleep and you guys just gave me new. So the amount of paranoia and anxiety I had driving after that moment in time for like a couple of years was intense. And anytime I started getting even remotely sleepy, I was just not a good time behind the wheel. But anyway, I brought that up because that was a near death experience that I was like, holy shit. I really don't have time to just put this off. Like, I really got to get more serious about my faith and what I think about stuff because um, each day is a blessing, man. Each day is a blessing, people. And we don't know when it's going to be our last. And literally, we have no idea what the future holds. That's another thing I've been thinking about is like, you just don't know what's going to be invented or discovered or happen that could completely change the course of your life. So it's good to be adaptable and to take things in stride. But again, the reason I brought that up is because, with me almost dying and my brother being a pastor, he's like, hey, I just want to chat and see what you think about it. And, my brother Adam, he was instrumental in me having a better outlook on what Christianity was. And he didn't try to convert me at any point in time. He is, he has studied the Bible. He's studied Greek and Hebrew, and he is extremely, extremely smart and well studied on the Bible. So it's like the luxury of having someone like that you can actually like pick their brain, ask them literally whatever you want, and almost try to like gotcha. But like it was just so refreshing. And I didn't expect that from him at that time either, because I think he got very gung ho with the Bible and almost got kind of like Bible thumpery just like smoke you over the Bible. And he really repented, and that honestly, that's a testament to his faith and his experience, and that's an amazing thing. But at that point in time, I was like, man, where'd my older brother go? Like, I'm about to go to Penn State and drink and party and do this stuff, and I was like, I don't feel like I have an older brother to even ask any of that stuff because he's gonna like tattle on me. So, um, I wasn't sure what it was going to be like grabbing coffee with him and just chatting about it, asking him questions, but he withstood the gauntlet. He answered every question I had for him to the best of his ability. If he didn't have an answer, he didn't make one up. He just said, I'm not too sure about that. Basically in more or less words, depending on it. But ultimately, we got to a point where it's like, through talking about my car accident, he's like, I think another thing that was like, that really spoke to me through our conversations was like, do you want to meet your creator? Like, why would you want to go to heaven? I wish I could remember exactly how this conversation went down. But I know he asked me a question, something along the lines of like, if you went to heaven and God was there, but everyone you loved and cared about wasn't, would you be disappointed? It was a question, something like that. Because I think I had mentioned something like, I really can't wait to be reunited with all the people that I'm going to love and miss, as they pass on and go to heaven. Being able to be reunited with them down the road is something that would be really cool. So I think he kind of brought up that, where it's like, he reframed this for me, because at first I was like, yeah, I'd be disappointed if I didn't see mom or dad and, or any of the people that I care about. And I never got to say goodbye to my grandpa. So if he's there, being able to reunite with him and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, if all of them were there and God wasn't there, then I'd definitely be disappointed. It would just be like round 2 of Earth was, right? And that's not what heaven would be. I would want to meet my creator, and so anyway, where am I on religion now? Because that was when I was like 24 years old, and that was a drastic change, and I'm pretty drastic with a lot of stuff at times. I've gotten a lot better at it, but a lot of times when I decide to do something, I just like dive in, and I tend to forget about a lot of the people that knew the previous version of me for many, a pretty long time. And then for me to have like this new outlook on life and to be so just like abrupt with that switch, it can be very shocking to some people and stuff like that. But anyways, let me look at my notes, because let's see here. So, I would still say I'm a Christian. Why? Why do I still think Christianity is the right religion? Also, through the conversation with my brother, to the best of my knowledge, and again, I could be wrong here. I am not one to say that I'm right on any one given topic. I think conversation and discussion is needed to be had pretty much at all points in time, unless it's very mundane or remedial. But let me think. It's like a jog over here. Crap, I can't remember what I was going to say. Anyways, oh yeah. Through I could be wrong, but I think that Christianity is like the Bible's like the only book where it explicitly says in the book that, if ABC isn't true, then this religion's just not true. And I want to say it was the Apostle Paul writing about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That if Jesus didn't get crucified, he didn't die on the cross, and he didn't rise again, and then go into heaven, like Christianity, it's not real, and you should go live a hedonistic life, blah, 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 blah. Again, I'm grossly paraphrasing and trying to just remember, recall with zero preparation, like what the conversation was. So people, if you want to add to that or questions or anything like that, I'm happy to. I mean, go by all means, go ahead. But anyways, so that was interesting to me, that like Christianity is the only religion saying like this is the only way. There's no other way to go. There's no, there's not multiple religions. There's not multiple ways to get the right answer. There's not, 2 ways to skin a cat for this one. Christianity says this is it. This is the only one. You don't need any others. There's no false idol. Whereas like certain other religions, like, again, I'm probably gonna get a lot of this wrong, but it's something along the lines of like, all Christians are Islam, but not all Islams are Christian. Something like that. Because, I mean, technically the Christian God and the like Muslim God's the same one. It's the same God. It's just different prophets. And the main, I want to say, there's multiple, but the main belief that's very different from Islam to Christianity is that, Jesus was a prophet. He wasn't the son of God. And that's the huge difference there. I mean, there's definitely other differences in the books, in ideologies and all that stuff. But that's a huge one, I would say. So that having like a bet on itself is pretty amazing. I thought the fact that the Bible, I'm going to find this picture real quick. It's amazing. The amount of times that the Bible cross-references itself. I mean, yeah, like this is absolutely crazy. I get this close. Like, if those are all the lines where the Bible says, like here, and it mentions something that happened over here, it's the most hyperlinked, that's the Jordan Peterson term, like hyperlinked book ever made. And it was made across hundreds of years by many different authors and compiled and comprised to create the Bible that we see today. That's both amazing and sketches me out personally. Like, there's other things that were written that were like excluded from the Bible. And that all seems to me like there's just too much human hands on this stuff, So a lot of Christians will say that the Bible is absolutely perfect, a divine book created from God himself. And I'm not ruling that out. Anything's possible when you're talking about God. If Jesus can rise from the dead, then God can make a perfect book. My counter to that is that people are not perfect, and the Bible is covered in human hands. And, I wasn't there. I wasn't there when they wrote it. I don't know. I don't know shit about who these people were that wrote it, who comprised it, the influence back then, the people in power. Very skeptical of those kind of people and their intentions, because they're not transparent. They don't tell us the truth, but they don't think we can handle the truth. So why they decide to do things, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I don't know. I'm not at the table. They have their reasonings for it. I just wish they had chosen truth over manipulation, I guess. But again, I wasn't there. I don't know why they decided that. Anyways, so that's another cool thing about the Bible. And just sorry guys, I'm struggling, so just bear with me here. Another reason that I say Christianity over the rest is because of the 12 disciples, right? These guys literally just dropped everything in their life. I don't know if any of them were married or had kids or anything like that, but they left their jobs, their belongings, everything. They dropped it and followed Jesus, and they started, listening to his teachings and helping people and doing all this other stuff. And then he was crucified. Like, their leader was crucified, and they were all being targeted for crucifixion as well. Like, so to me, just from a logical standpoint, I can't wrap my head around anybody just deciding for the hell of it that they're going to like try to propagate this story across centuries to be this number one religion in the world, at the risk of their own lives and comfort and well-being, just so they can, we don't know, again, we don't even, well, we know who the disciples were. We don't even know all the people that wrote the Bible, to my knowledge. So it's interesting that the disciples, it seems just logically that if they were to follow Jesus even after his resurrection and all that stuff, historically being, recognized and documented, and it's pretty reliable as far as historical documents and things like that go, doesn't make much sense for them to not really believe what it is that they're talking about and doing. So to me, that's a strong evidence and case for, Jesus being real. And, it's, again, like not even religiously, just historically. If you go to historians and say like, was Jesus of Nazareth a real person? Almost certainly. There was almost certainly a Jesus of Nazareth. Is it the Jesus? I don't know. Like, this is the stuff where it gets hairier, you can't really prove. It's a convenient thing that we can't prove that there's no body. If Jesus' body, if we had his body, Christianity wouldn't even be a thing anymore, but we don't have his body. So, there's enough, you could say conveniently, there's enough stuff that is just like impossible to prove one way or the other as far as religion goes that works in Christianity's favor. But where was I going with any of that? Man, I must be sleepy. Because I'm just so spotty today. And my thoughts keep forgetting like everything where I'm going. So yeah, the historians, that's where we were at. The historians said, Jesus of Nazareth was a real person, like more than likely. He was crucified. And if he was crucified, he was killed. A lot of people will say like, oh, Jesus didn't actually die on the cross. Like, nobody that knows what they're talking about actually says that. So like that, I'm not trying to shit on people that say that kind of stuff. But I think if you know anything about what the process of a Roman crucifixion was, then you would understand that like if Jesus was crucified, like there's a 0 chance that he managed to survive that process. And that's the leading consensus there. So take those out the window. And then there are large eyewitness groups who said they recognized and identified Jesus after the point that he was crucified. So all that being, supposedly true, that's probably like my main thing. Like I genuinely feel that Jesus is actually the Son of God. He was actually sent to earth. He actually was put on the cross to die for us, for our sins. And he actually rose again from the dead. I believe all that actually happened. And so, if I were to say I'm one, I would say I'm Christian. Having said that, where I'm at with religion now, it's way more complicated. The thing is, no one knows. No one knows. They might have faith so strong they feel like they know, but there is 0 certainty. It's not simple. If it were simple, there wouldn't be a bunch of different religions and a bunch of wars fought over it and all this bloodshed. It's not simple. And if it was so easy of an answer, then it would be the answer for everybody. So it kind of makes it kind of is like annoying sometimes when people will say that like, no, I'm right. This is the one truth. It's like, you don't know, man. And if you never got to a point where you realize at 18 that like, oh, the only reason I'm Christian probably, not the only reason, but a major part of why I'm Christian is because I grew up in this part of the world and my parents were, and that's where, I was basically trained and I don't want to say groomed. That's because, that's a terrible different thing. But like, I was put in a situation, over time growing up that is going to likely like lead to an outcome that I'm going to be Christian. So if other people don't have that kind of idea and start thinking about, well, like, what do I really think, and start thinking for themselves and wonder, like, what part of this serves me in the life I'm trying to live, and what of this stuff that I'm learning serves, helps me serve others and be a good use to the world. So, that again, like, talking with Taki, and about Islam, it's like there's so much value in religion, period. Doesn't matter which religion it is. There's so much value in the morals, the ethics, the lessons. Like, they all will teach you to, if that's what your goal is, to be a better person and to live a better life. Like, they will all give you plenty of information, tips, and tricks and stories that will help you do that. So this is kind of where I start getting into more of a struggle here with like the spiritual here on earth versus the, what's next. And outwitting the devil also, like, there's several chapters in there and things in there that, like, to me, it seems like it contradicts Christianity quite a bit. Just the way they look at things. The God is portrayed as the the positive energy in the universe, whereas the devil is portrayed as the negative energy in the universe. And I'll go into more in depth on that another time, but whereas in Christianity, it's like the devil with the pitchfork and horns and stuff like that, and that's definitely not the devil either way. I don't know where that came from. And then God and like the angel, if you've seen what accurate depictions of angels look like, go check those out. Someday I'll maybe be able to edit and put stuff in there for you guys, so this is a more entertaining show. But like what we see as those like little like fat naked angels that Cupid or something like that, versus what an angel is described as in the Bible and like what they might look like, not the same, man. What was that? Why did I even bring that up? Oh yeah, because we were talking about outwitting the devil versus and I kind of I kind of like Napoleon Hill's depiction of the devil and how that's all explained in the book. It's very thoroughly explained and makes a lot of sense to me. And that's kind of how my thoughts work. Like, whatever makes the most sense to me is pretty much the thought I adopt. And if someone can come to me with a better argument or a better case for what is a different thought that I could possibly have, they can definitely convince me with a better argument and more evidence and, thoroughly explaining their position. It's happened to me many times. Like, a lot of people think I'm stubborn. I am just not going to give you my position. Like, I'm not going to just be like, oh yeah, you're right. And like, let's just do that. I'm always like, maybe, could be, man. Who knows? Like, it's fun to talk about like what could be, and what's going on with physics now and the discoveries they're finding, like in the quantum level and all. Like, it's almost like math and science and stuff it tends to almost prove that there's something beyond us in this universe, whether it's a Christian God or just something beyond us. It's pretty certain and evident, what they're finding and understanding now. And like, I used to have all kinds of fun thoughts about like, what if this is what it was like? It's just dogma and like BS. But I was like, well, what if? And I don't know where those thoughts come from, right? So when in Outwitting the Devil, they talk about infinite intelligence. Sorry. And we're all made of this like intelligence units. People have the most intelligence units of living animals, because more of them congregate within us, and you can gain more by being open-minded and receptive and thinking critically about stuff. You can get more and welcome more intelligence units to you, and that's how you can get a lot of knowledge and become very wise. So when I say anything about myself, like really, I'm talking about the infinite intelligence that makes me up. Like, man, I don't. I'm already at 45 minutes, and I'm like, didn't realize where this podcast was going to take me, and also I wish I had been a little bit more rested so that I could have been a little bit more like. But I don't know where the thoughts come from. When a random thought pops in your head, it's like, did I think about that, or like, where did that come from? So anyway, it's like, well, what if what life is here on Earth is like everyone's actually in heaven? Again, this is like really comforting, fun. This would be great if this was really going on. What if we all go to heaven? There's just one afterlife, and we're all perfect there. And then there's like a ride, like an amusement park ride called like life. And you can at any point in time decide to leave heaven or the afterlife, the ethereal realm, and you can hop on this ride of life. And the thing is, like, when you decide to do that, like, you won't remember anything. It's gone, wiped. You just have no idea of what's beyond that physical realm that we are in right now. So you are birthed as this little human. You just, we're all popping out. Like, you look at like the birth counters and bringing 100 births a second, basically, across the world. So you'll just pop out. I guess a lot of people do want to ride the ride, and like you go, you live your life, and whenever it's over, you're boom back up there, and then all the memories come back of all the lives you ever lived on Earth. And you could be like, damn, I joke, shouldn't joke about Hitler, but like, Hitler, again, he got on the ride. Shit happened in his life that basically took him down the path he was on, and he ended up doing some pretty horrific stuff. When Hitler died, he went right back, and he was like, oh, shit. My bad, guys. Like, all you 4 million people, sorry for cutting your ride short. So, like, it's interesting to me to think about like all those different ideas of just like what could be beyond. Honestly, I try not to spend too much time doing that because no one knows. So when no one knows, it's like it just doesn't do me anything day to day for me to like think about random thoughts of what could be beyond us, like what's next. It doesn't help me much in my day to day, other than like in the more of like a faith and spiritual aspect, like knowing there's something greater than me that created me and what it is that I'm interacting with, being the universe and planet Earth. I think the Western versus Eastern religion is like, looking up to the highest thing being God, or like, how can you raise yourself up to be the highest version of yourself? That's kind of like East versus West. Really bare bones, but like one's more internal and one's more like looking towards a God versus one's like more enlightenment. I feel like that's kind of my perception of it. But like especially for Christianity and that praying and faith that way, it definitely gives you a lot of people a lot of strength. I know a lot of amazing people and Christians that like they get through life and handle life because they think God's on their side, that they have Jesus. And I've felt that kind of stuff too. What you decide to call it is up to you. And I mean, again, this is where it gets really tricky. And I my brother would be friggin' like probably not super happy about this take, but because it's just not like, again, this is like I'm an ideologue. This is dogma. Like this isn't. It's not rooted in anything. I'm just kind of like talking out loud and sharing my thoughts. So let me kind of get into the meat potatoes of what I wanted to actually talk about today. 50 minutes in. Okay. What I what I think is that the Bible, here, we'll start with the Bible. So for the Bible, it could be metaphorical or it could be literal or it could be a combination of both. I think personally I'm in the camp that it's a combination of the both. I've been in some serious discussions, and like I didn't know that was a hot take. I didn't know that thinking that the Bible could be metaphorical was a super hot take that like causes a lot of devout Christians to um like put up walls or get like really screaming. They don't like talking about it like this, in my experience. So people that think the Bible's literal, they do not like talking about it being metaphorical. The reason that is, I think, is because it makes them question their faith and belief to have those kinds of questions. Like, what if the Bible's metaphorical? It's easier for a lot of people to just say it's all literal because of the contingency that I mentioned earlier, where Jesus literally had to be here, die for our sins, and raise again for Christianity to be real. So if that's literal, and that's one of the most insane things that happens in the Bible, as far as like, is that real or not? Coming back to life 3 days after you die is pretty miracle, like not really possible, unless you have some ethereal being that's like a fourth or fifth dimensional or beyond being that can like just pluck and play, like this is a sandbox. um it just doesn't seem fathomable. So it's easier to just say that if that's one of the things that has to be like literal, then like let's just make everything literal. It'll just be consistent that way. But again, I think because it was written by so many people over such a long span of time, like who freaking know, how could you even know? And for me, it doesn't compromise my faith or like my idea of there being a God to have it kind of go back and forth. Like I don't know. It's not that to me that's not the important thing. The important thing's not this needs to be literal, and if it's not literal, you don't think that you're going to hell. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, what? So when I have this conversation with people I care about, that I'm like, I don't know if the Bible's 100% literal. They're like, like, well, you guys tell me this. Is it how much value is lost on the Bible? How much value is lost to people that will never touch the Bible because they're like, that shit's not real. Okay, fine. It's 100% metaphors. Here you go. You can read this book and you will gain so much from it. I mean, literally just open up a Bible one day to anywhere and just start reading. I challenge you to do that. I've never been disappointed. I've literally never been disappointed doing that. They're the Proverbs, the Psalms. I mean, the like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Any of them. There's so many good lessons. There's so much good knowledge in there. So many good things to ponder and think about. And I just think it's a shame that we can't have more open conversations without people getting like so upset or offended, or again, because I do get it. I understand that when you think like something that is literally part of your identity, and like who you are as a human spiritually, like beyond who you are as a human, like your spiritual body and like what you believe in after, which especially for a religion like Christianity, where it's life everlasting. Like this is such a small portion that we're experiencing here on earth. What's to come after, like it's way more important. Not necessarily even more important, but it's just more. Like it's going to be way longer. It's going to be a very different thing. Who even knows what it'll be like, really? But when your faith in that kind of stuff comes into question because someone looks at it a different way than you. Like, I understand why you put up walls and like don't want to talk about it or tell someone not to question that kind of stuff. I'm just not that kind of person. Like, I want to question lots of stuff. Lots of stuff doesn't make much sense. So it's like, well, if it doesn't make sense, can we make it make more sense? That's really the idea behind everything I'm trying to do. Is like, lots of stuff doesn't make too much sense. And it pisses me the fuck off that people will say, it just is how it is, man. And it's like, yeah, right now in this second in fucking time, but it doesn't have to be forever. But if we keep just saying, yeah, it's just how it is, or that's how that goes, and all, and we don't instead try to say make more sense of it, or to do something that makes more sense, or to try a better option or improve things. Like, what are we fucking doing? So I feel like we've been so stagnant here. Pretty much my whole 30 years on the planet, like barely anything's improving. Like, barely. So like, I don't know. Just a lot of stuff just doesn't make much sense. That was like one of my first podcasts. It was like talking about like shit that just doesn't make sense to me. And instead of trying to come up with better explanations and methods and means, we just say, well, that's just kind of how it is. And it's like, I'm done with that. I'm not continuing to. Yes, that's how things are now, but I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to make it better. I don't know how much I'll get done in the time I have here. I don't know how many days I have on this planet, but I want to devote my life to make things better, to improve upon things, to question things, to explain things better, and leave this place better than what was left to me. Like, give the next people a better chance. All right, set them up for success. Like, I just don't. Some people maybe feel like they've been set up for success, and I honestly, like, by and large, I've been set up for success. I've had generally pretty good hand I was dealt. A lot better than most, so I'm very grateful for that kind of stuff. And at the same time, I'm still in the situation I'm in where, I'm doing this at, midnight to record, and I, have 2 different jobs to just try to get by and, get stuff going on and, turn my life around because I made so many mistakes. So it's like, despite me having a great hand, I still ended up in a situation that I'm in currently, that I've been working to improve for a long time. And it's, slowly starting to turn around. And even right now, it doesn't even necessarily feel like it's slowly turning around. It kind of feels like still stuck in the same spot, which is a huge reason why I hopped on to record this tonight, because I was like, if I don't freaking record this, I feel like, why have I not even done one? It's like, because I've been sick and whatever the excuses are, but I knew I needed to get back to it and at least record this questionable episode. So yeah, this is what I wrote. The Bible is amazing for so many reasons. Is it all literal? Is it all metaphorical? Who knows? To me, what is important is the lessons that they teach. It's a disservice to the Bible and Christianity to deny people that would learn a ton and probably come closer to God if they were allowed to consider the Bible as a metaphor. And then, what's more important? Yeah, this is the whole crux of the podcast, because I don't know. I don't know the answer there. What I did want to bring up, though, was this clip from George Janko. I don't know who knows that guy, but I like him quite a bit. He used to be on Logan Paul's podcast. Used to be one of his good friends. Split off. I'm so glad George split off and is doing his own show now. I've enjoyed his podcast quite a bit. I think he's a great guy. But he mentioned this Bible verse, Matthew 7:21-23. about true and false disciples. And he said, this is like a verse that used to terrify him. And he said, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. But only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. Yeah. So, this was an amazing class. I literally sent it to myself right away to save. And I highly encourage everyone to try to look up George Janko's little like YouTube short on this because it's beautiful, man. But he said that verse used to scare him because, like obviously he's a devout Christian and he doesn't want to run into that situation. And I'm not sure where his epiphany came from, but what he ended up saying is that, people will say like, oh, you think you're so good. You think you're going to get into heaven for doing this, this, and this. And he is like, no, 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 no. You misunderstand, my friend. Nothing I can do is good enough to get me into heaven. There's no life I could live that would be good enough that God would be like, come on in, man. It is Jesus that died on the cross for our sins. That's it. That's the only way. We're not worthy. We are undeserving. We do not deserve a single thing on this planet. We come with nothing and we leave with nothing. So, I think a lot of people are very entitled and think they deserve all kinds of things these days. But that really spoke to me because it's like, and the reason I brought that up at all is because, the question for me is, what's right? What's more important, being right or like knowing the actual answer or like doing good here on earth? Like what's living the best and most ethical life possible for you? Like what allows you to do that? So like whatever interpretation of the Bible, this is a thought I had months and months ago, where it's like, is it more important to study what is correct in the Bible and figure out what the truth is, which, yes, very important. Or is it more important to live the most Jesus-like life? It's like, what would Jesus do? So like, this is kind of where like, I'm really trying to figure it out because there seems to be like some kind of just contradictory type of stuff where it's like, we're trying to live a life like Jesus, but it's not living a life like Jesus that gets you into heaven. It's your belief in Jesus that gets you into heaven. So I'm trying to figure out like the nitty gritty in the details of like, well, okay, so you have to say you believe, you have to repent, and it's like, well, again, it goes right back to what I started the episode with, where like here on earth versus spiritually after your life, like they're two very different things. So while being here on earth, like I think it's very important to try to live a life like Jesus and to be kind to others and provide services that people need and to be helpful, all kinds of stuff like that. These good things, ethical, moral, like that's what I feel like we should be striving for. I feel like we're so far away from that, where we just demonize the person across from us when we disagree with them. We, attack who they are. We literally just devolve from humans into something else. And I'm trying to understand that a little bit better. I'm trying to understand more of why that happens and how to, circumvent that, get around it, come up with something a little bit better that's easier for people to do, or just more, like more productive. Because it's not productive to just tell someone else they're wrong and that they're a piece of shit because they disagree with you. Like that's just not productive. It's very sad to me that we treat other humans that way, especially with social media. We get to hide behind our phones and keyboards. Got Monkey D. Luffy. Got Zoro, the monster trio. Monkey D. Luffy. Como como no. Anyway, sorry, I'm such a nerd, guys, but I was so goofy at ADD, man. Why did I even say that? What was I talking about? I saw my shirt. Oh yeah, we're hiding behind the keyboards. I looked at my phone. And it's like we forget that there's like an actual another person on the other side, that like we say things to them and we don't know them, man. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what they've done. We don't know what, who depends on them. We don't know anything. A lot of times when we interact with them. Consequences of just being very out of pocket and toxic nowadays. So many young kids and shit go on the internet and just troll, It's like, yo, if you got clocked in the side of the head for saying that to somebody, like, you'd think again. And again, here's another. I literally just had this now, and I'm gonna try to wrap this up quickly here because I'm really tired and it's already over an hour. Just poof, gone out of my head. Goodness gracious. Wow, man. I really am starting to lose my brain over here. I gotta pause this. Well, I apologize, guys, because this episode's already been way all over the place, but I literally have no idea. It'll be funny watching this back for myself because it's going to be one of the most trash, spotty episodes that I don't know who would actually listen to this for like, an hour, 10 minutes, unless they were just driving around bored and, maybe they're interested in what I have to say, but this one is like tough because I definitely am like very scatterbrained and I've had a very busy brain. Oh, it's starting to come back. I'll say this. This is not exactly what I wanted to say, but there's what I think is the right good thing to do. And then there's like this other thing over here, right? Maybe it's like the shadow, where, like I know what I think is the right thing to do, and that it's like I don't think you should lie, cheat, steal. I don't think you should hurt anyone unless it's self-defense. I'm really not about revenge. I'm not about hurting anyone. But I also feel like the like we've messed up the deterrence to do bad things. It doesn't seem like there's enough deterrent that keep people from doing bad things. And if the consequences were more severe, would people be less likely to do them? I don't know. Like I'm trying to figure out that as well. And this is kind of like the joke that I'm getting at. This is what I was going to say earlier, but the joke that I say is like, like if you could smack the shit out of somebody that just left their shopping cart in the middle of the fucking parking lot, like they'd be looking around again before they left the cart there. Do I think you should slap the shit out of somebody for leaving a cart in a parking lot? No, like don't. I wouldn't do that personally. I don't recommend doing it to anyone personally. It's a joke. Don't do that. However, if someone were to start doing that, like we'd probably put our carts away. So it's like, why do we need to be disciplined and deterred from doing what we should just do? It's not that hard to just do the right thing at the end of the day. It's hard because so many people don't just do the right thing. And when it's like, why am I doing that? Why am I taking 10 extra steps if no one else is doing it? It's like you start getting down that kind of mentality and And then you get into where we are in society today. And anyways, I want to go back to religion real quick. Um, so the George Janko thing. So that's something that like I really have to think about, because it's like, what's more important? What's more important is believing in God. Then it's like the devil's in the details. But to me, I would think it's better to live a life that is closer to the life of Jesus, what would Jesus do type of life, than it is to like argue and deter people away, or turn people away from Christianity or the faith, whatever. I'm not trying to recruit anyone to be a Christian. Like I'm trying to say in the most roundabout way possible. Like I don't really know. I lean towards Christianity. I still think there's so much value in the other religions that like I personally, what I think is it's more of like a combination of all the religions. And if all the religions could actually come together and work together, maybe that would be the real answer. We'd have something figured out. We'd actually be able to figure out a path to enlightenment and, like really elevate as a species. But I don't think many people are capable of even considering different options. And then also with that, like I can't just cherry pick whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. As far as like what I decide to think and believe, I can really decide what I want to think and believe. So I could cherry pick whatever I think is the best from each religion and form my own new religion under that kind of thing. And that's honestly kind of what I do anyway. Because it's like, if I can gain value to be able to be a better person and treat others better and to provide more service to them, I want to do that. So if I have to cherry pick certain ideas from certain religions or even from Christianity that like fit what it is that I'm trying to get accomplished and what I feel is my life purpose and mission, then I'm probably going to do it. It's like, I'm really not for this like all or nothing type of ideas. Not typically, at least. I mean, I'm sure there's a situation where all or nothing's okay. But for this, I think it just depends. It depends is one of my favorite answers, because it usually depends on a lot. Nothing's that simple. So the last thing I was really just wanting to talk about, it's kind of like a similar thing where, I kind of started with Christianity and it's like, what's better, like to think about what it is actually, or to like form a relationship with God and live a more God-like life, to live in his image. I think living in his image, secondary to believing in God, is probably better than like getting hung up on the details of is this literal or is this metaphorical? If you are, again, it's kind of an interesting thing in like these sub communities of like bigger umbrellas, like under the umbrella of Christianity. There's like, there's Catholicism, there's evangelism, and many more. Protestant and all these different things. There's these branches, and they all have these different little disagreements and nuances. And to me, like that's fine. Like again, like I want to seek truth and figure out what the answer is. So the groups kind of form from strong convictions on this is what we think is actually the best way to go about it. And I, like I said, I'm a truth seeker, so I understand that completely. When it comes to more of like a generic overarching sense of, like what's better and what are we trying to accomplish here, I think living in his image is more important than necessarily just being right. I don't even know if it's possible to figure out what the right answer is. So maybe that's why I lean more towards like, I don't think being right in this kind of thing, where no one knows, is sorry guys, I literally feels like someone's tickling my uvula back there. Got a little guy. playing with a feather back there or something. Um, and then, so then the last thing is like, what, and this is how I feel about religion too. It's not just Christianity. In all religions, whatever allows you to live the best life, or you're serving the most people, you're creating the most impact, you're doing the best. If there is an objective truth of like what's moral, what's good, and what's just, whatever religion allows you to actually exemplify those objective truths of what's the best, that's the religion I want you to go practice. And I am not going to tell you at all, you're wrong, you're going to hell and all. Like, I'm not going to say that because, one, I don't know. It's not my job to do that. My job is to live the best life I can possibly live to the fullest, to have no regrets, to take care of the people I care about, and to take care of myself. Like, that's my job. And I think that's everyone's job individually, So, figure out how you can live the best life with the cards you were dealt. Yeah. So, anyways, way out there. This is episode number 8. So I will try to get back to. Gotta be careful. I don't want to use. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this later. Little tidbit, from my life coaching side of the channel. Be very careful about what you tell yourself you're going to do. Do not tell yourself you're going to do a bunch of stuff and then not have any intention of doing it. Even if you have intention, but you're like, don't get around to it. Like, that stuff, it murders your confidence, murders your productivity, makes you feel bad. It's just not a good thing to do. It's better to say you're going to do less and end up doing more. So, actions are far more important than the sentiment, It's kind of the reason I rolled my eyes right there is because on a different note, when it comes to communicating to someone, I think the intent and sentiment is more important than how it's received personally. Well, we'll get down to that on another day as well. But no one has watched a single full episode of mine yet. That's okay. Thank you to the people that have made it this far, if you have. Thank you to anyone that clicked on the video in the first place. Sorry, this was a rougher episode. If you did get any value, please share the show with a friend. If you think that this could help anybody, that was struggling, or you think it's interesting, you want to laugh at me because I'm goofy or silly, or you want to yell at me because I'm stupid, do whatever you guys want to do. Drop a comment down below. If you do like my show, go ahead, give me a like on this one and subscribe to the channel. But other than that, hope you guys have an amazing week, and I will catch you next time. Take care.